Welcome back. Today we're gonna be taking on the Weeping Peninsula. Why is it called that? Probably because it's raining all the time. Either that or by the time you're done with this place you're gonna be weeping yourself. If you have a keen eye you'll notice that I've switched builds. In fact, I switched characters entirely. I didn't like the archer gameplay and decided to try something that I've never played before, a caster. Being a caster isn't without its own challenges though. There's been some growing pains. Cycling spells is a pain in the ass for one. That and the constant rain which makes my fire spells do less damage. But so far I'm enjoying it more than the archer. I guess I enjoy shooting spells more than shooting arrows. Some of these bosses were really difficult and it makes me appreciate melee combat much more. We're still playing on Master Mode though and the plan is to defeat every single boss in the game. Let's get started. First off, the multiplayer. I didn't mention it in my last video since it was already getting too long for its own good. But there is multiplayer, and it is very much functional. The mod uses its own scaling when it comes to matching up players, so you're potentially going to be seeing a bigger variety of levels when it comes to players. I saw some players with late game weapons and armor, but they probably used Starlight tokens to get those items. For the most part, there's no lag, but I haven't had much luck trying to get parries off in multiplayer. You might be wondering how the difficulty settings work. In multiplayer, the host's own difficulty settings are used for every player in the world. In this clip, the host is playing on the 1-star difficulty, which I believe is called relaxed mode. I might be mistaken there. Here's a clip of me doing a boss in my own world with 2 other phantoms. Note the difficulty, it is still Master Mode. We all have the same synced up difficulty mode. This makes the boss have a ton of health, but it doesn't make the fight drag out too long since we're still 3 players strong. Another feature is flask sharing. Whenever you drink a flask near another player, that player also gets some restoration, depending on which type of flask you used. Your reward for slaying a boss in multiplayer is coins. You can exchange these different types of coins for rewards at the round table hold. I almost forgot to mention that the difficulty setting you're playing on does change how many coins you get. If you help a host who's playing on Master Mode, you get 3 coins instead of 1. But this does not work for the host who still only gets 1 hero's coin. I've killed a lot of bosses in the Weeping Peninsula, every single one of them actually. Instead of showing you every kill, I'm gonna show you the bosses that caused me the most pain. Starting with one of the worst outdoor boss encounters in the game, the Demi-Human Queen. There are several Demi-Human Queens in the game, but this one is by far the worst one.
I just can't do it. I can't take this shit no more, man.
The entire area is surrounded by Demi-Humans and patrols. You can't even take the boss too far without aggroing something from the side. The queens also have a very annoying hitbox. You've gotta be inside them to get any hits in. I thought it would be an easy fight since I'm a caster, but I could not have been more mistaken. Seriously, how much health does the Demi-Human Queen have? And every time you die, you have to kill every single one of these smaller Demi-Humans all over again. Imagine a boss fight where you have to kill 4 adds before you can start the fight. Actually, don't imagine that. Final attempt. I had 1 flask left, my palms were sweaty, my balls were sweaty. Dying now would mean permanently losing 10 minutes of my life. Still having some difficulties cycling through my spell list, but I managed to charge up the biggest flamesling of my life and sent the queen straight back to hell. What was I just saying about ads? Oh yeah, they suck. This is Watchdog number 2, except this time there are several imps assisting the boss. Does it make the fight any harder? Yes, it does. Does it make the fight more fun? Hell no. Well, this boss wasn't too bad. I slapped gravitas on my short sword, and after that it was a matter of getting lucky enough to kill most of the imps in the first few seconds of the fight. I still died to the boss several times. Getting the ads down was the hard part. Once you have the boss all to yourself, it's just a short jaunt over to Victory Town. You might have seen me using fire against this boss. That's not a good thing. The boss is resistant to fire, which made this fight longer than it should have been. Instead, I switched to my tail to finish the boss off, and that's that. Boss is dead. Switching over to another boss that caused me pain, the Leonine Misbegotten from Castle Moore. It took me 9 attempts to kill this guy, and compared to my usual melee characters, this was a lot harder. I managed to get a bleed proc from my shield, which, by the way, does a minuscule amount of bleed. You always have to remember to codex the enemy. If you do miss the codex, you can resurrect the boss at the round table hole. This boss wasn't giving me a lot of opportunities to cast, so I slammed him in the face for the finisher. Pointing down at the boss after killing is optional, but it does help. If you played Reforged on one of the higher difficulties, then you know what's coming next. This next boss is optional, but one of the hardest bosses you're gonna face in Master Mode. This boss is so difficult that there's an entire video guide dedicated to fighting him. It's made by Throngler Reforged. Give it a watch if you really want to get in depth with the attacks. But I'm not an expert. My problem solving methods usually involve my head and the nearby wall. Rest assured, this boss really destroyed me. Fortunately for me, the boss was weak to fire, which, as it happens, was my most used damage type. Showing every single clip of me fighting against this boss would take an eternity, so instead enjoy this little death reel I made. So the boss is constantly aggressive and relentless. Opportunities for healing are very limited in this fight, but it's all a matter of persistence. Keep trying long enough and eventually the boss will die. This was by far the hardest boss. There were a few times where I thought I'd have to start using a melee weapon instead. Even hitting an uncharged flame sling was hard on this boss. Thank goodness the boss finally died, and with that, the Weeping Peninsula was finally complete. Also, I killed Margit, but he didn't take nearly as long as the aged hero of Zamor did. And after what the hero had put me through, Margit was like a decrepit old man in comparison. It's like I could see his moves before he even made them. Well, that's the end of this video. I'll see you later. Bye.